Why do you love the B-29?
It was a quantum leap over this B-17 right here. This B-17 was a terrific airplane, but the B-29 introduced the world to things that you enjoy today. You go to 30,000, 35,000 feet on an airline. It's because we pioneered it in pressurization in the B-29. In the B-29, you didn't have to have a mask on above 12,000 feet like you did in the 17, and that in itself changed the atmosphere in an airplane tremendously. I mean, if you went on a 6, 8, 10, 12-hour mission in the B-17, you had a mask on your face all the time. In this, you could walk around like in your office, so to speak. And so it changed the air world with all the things that it could do. It could fly further, it could fly higher, it could carry more bombs, and had a lot of horsepower. Boy, there's 8,500 horsepower in those 4 engines right there. So it introduced the world to a different form of aviation, which has leaped way above that because of jets and so forth. But we made the first bombing mission over Japan on June 5th of 1944, which happened to be D-Day. They purposely bombed Japan for the first time on the same day they landed in Europe. And we flew it out of Qingtu, China. And the most amazing thing to me today is I look at Qingtu today in pictures, and there are skyscrapers. And Qingtu at that time was a village. I don't think it had a building over 2 stories, and was not a place you even went to. And today it's a big, prosperous place. But we bombed Japan out of there, but we couldn't keep our airplane, couldn't keep the 29s there because the Japanese occupied China 500 miles away, and they could bomb us. So we would hop, skip, and jump. We were based in India. We'd fly over the Himalayas, land there and take on some gas, fly to Japan, fly back to Qingtu, put on enough gas to get back over the Himalayas and stay and land in India. And we would start out, get up at 3 o'clock this morning. We would get to Qingtu about 11 o'clock this morning. At 4 o'clock this afternoon, we'd take off for Japan, and we would bomb Japan about midnight, and then fly back to Qingtu tomorrow morning, land, get gas, and then fly over to India. And by that time, if you weren't bombed out, you went to the officers' club and got bombed out.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Internet. So you were telling me about your memorable mission.
It was the longest mission of World War II, 4,040 miles from Ceylon, India to Sumatra. We mined the river going up to Palembang, the big city in Sumatra, so that ships couldn't go up there, tanker ships that were getting gasoline from a high-octane refinery in there. The mission was not only the longest in miles, but it was the longest in hours. I flew 18 hours and 40 minutes in that B-29 right back there, and for the round trip. And it was very dramatic because Sumatra has got a spine down it like this, 12,000 feet. Well, we were so heavily loaded back here coming across the Indian Ocean, which is, I came across right where they think that airliner might have disappeared into, you remember, a few months ago. I flew right across the Indian Ocean and had to climb up over the mountains and then let down to 500 feet to drop the mine in the river. And a Dutch captain had been brought in from England who had plied that river with a tanker himself, and he told us exactly where the markers were that marked turns in the river and so forth. And he said if they haven't turned out the lights, you'll see codes A, B, C, D. In the Morse code, a light will blink it. And but this was 3 years after the war started, so they didn't know whether we didn't know whether the Japanese still maintained it. Anyway, we took off and dropped down and came out down there and found the mouth of the river, flew up, and here were the lights, A, B, C, D, just exactly like the captain had told us. Yeah.
So you remember China fondly. That was your only time. You gassed up there, basically.
Oh, my goodness. I was there when they had 90,000 people on the air base building it. And that air base at Qingtu was built without any equipment, any trucks, backhoes or anything like that, all done by manual labor. And matter of fact, all the stone for the different levels of the runway, we had to have deep runways for that airplane. It started out with big stones and smaller stones, then you had fine stones at the top. All this fine stone was made by people just chipping away at big stones and making small stones. And there'd be an entire family like this, maybe 15 people, babies, grandpa, father and mother, chipping these stones away. And when noon would come, a wagon would come through, and each one of these families would have a flag up like this, and the flag told how many mouths there were. And the cart driver would look at the sign and say, okay, you're due 10 scoops of rice. And in this wagon, he had a load of rice, and he would scoop rice into a container that the major domo of that group would bring over to the cart. That was furnished by the warlord of that area. All these Chinese were brought together at the air base at the order of the warlord, and which I was fortunate to have dinner one time at his home. But today, it's hard for me I haven't been back, but I see pictures and see what has happened to China since that day, and it's unbelievable, unbelievable. With skyscrapers in Qingtu, it's impossible. But they did it.